Happy Thursday, everybody. Josh here with On the Wrong Lead. Feels like it's been forever since we've done one of these, but as I always like to say, I feel like Lecomte weekend is really the weekend where the Derby. I don't want to say Derby season necessarily starts. Obviously, there's been Derby prep races and everything, but and oftentimes these early preps, right? We don't necessarily um, get a lot of real strong Derby runners all the time out of these races. But I feel like it's at least when, like, for me, the wheels start to turn, I start to get a little bit more excited, and I start to look a little bit closer at where these horses are coming from, where these horses are pointing to. Hey, where do these big name 2-year-olds, when are they coming back? And it starts to get the wheels turning a little bit, and you start to get a little bit. You can start to get some good racing, right? I think we got a couple good races here at Fairgrounds to talk about. And obviously Turfway is running right now. I'm dead and everything once again. Lost the jock in the first race of the Pick 5, and then decided to fade the even money favorite here. But one man who never fades an even money favorite, Mr. Mark Capitan. Mark, you are live in the Pick 4 here, and I believe I don't know if I have it ready. I might have it ready. I don't have it ready. Let me get it ready. 1 second.
What are you getting ready?
I'm trying to get ready one of my favorite.
Something about moving a chalk-eating weasel, right?
No.
Ah.
It's the too cute alert.
Ah, okay. The too cute alert. Okay.
The too cute alert. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
I realized that I didn't
So you're
have
doing
it
this to
queued up
yourself
here.
now. You
Well,
got
yeah. I
this
mean,
race?
I guess I was too cute by fading the even money favorite, and you were too cute because you went like 5 wide to get the even money favorite.
I did, yes. I went 5 wide to get the even money
Yeah.
favorite, yes.
So I feel like we both did our
happens.
normal stuff. Caleb, obviously, Caleb would have hated the even money favorite, but Caleb's a smart one, and he didn't play because he went to work like a nerd and actually went into the office. God bless him. But how you doing, man?
Doing good. I mean, I agree with you. Lecomte does feel like the first real sort of, real Derby prep. It feels like you're starting to get into the real early swing of things, and I think you start to see, obviously there's that these days Derby preps are really regionalized, where you have the Florida preps, the New York preps, you have that sort of Midwestern preps, which all go through the fairgrounds, and it feels like the first of the fairground preps, that kind of are a big deal. So I do agree with you. The racing's starting to get a little better. I wouldn't say it's great as of yet. Not a lot of good turf racing this time of year, but it is getting a little better. And honestly, it's a fun little fairway or fairgrounds card. Some good stakes racing. I think some of the undercard races are better than the Lecomte itself, but we'll talk through that when we get there.
Yeah, and I guess another someone who I've also been told, hey, is probably better than Lecomte himself, Mr. Caleb Knight. I don't know if that one works, but we're gonna go with it. Caleb, how you doing, man?
Doing good. Yeah, it's exciting to have Derby prep races coming up again. It does feel like it's been forever, not just since the Derby, although we talked about it last week. I think it does feel like the Derby was 15 years ago, but also since we've been doing this, just kind of a routine Thursday night preview stream. So good to be back. And yeah, I mean, I get a little more excited once the Risen Star rolls around. To me, these are still kind of horses that I'm not sure I'm going to see in May, but it's still enough to at least get people to start tuning in. So that's exciting.
Yeah, and you've been known to back that up by losing bourbon bottles, saying that none of those horses would make. Was I forgot? I already forgot what horse it was. Was it Rocket Can?
It was Rocket Can. It was one of the Fletcher Rocket Can or Rocket something. Yeah. There was 2 horses, wasn't there?
There might have been. Honestly,
but I think one was a scratch though. Actually, I think I did same day scratch maybe.
I mean, either way, I got that bet home, which always feels good. But yeah, it's been it's been kind of a weird year. I talked about it on Drinking Champagne. I think we talked a little bit about on like our year recap. Um, it's just kind of been an odd year. I haven't played nearly as much as I normally do since Breeders' Cup. Caleb, I know you obviously were busy with life stuff for the last 18 months nearly, so like you haven't really been playing much. Mark, I know you generally don't play a ton in the winter just because you're skiing and stuff. So yeah, it's just kind of been weird. And honestly, like I went and I saw some of these horses in the Lecomte, and I'm like, I've never heard of these horses, So it's just like I don't know if I've seen these
Well,
horses run before, and generally I feel like even in the Lecomte, like there's a couple horses that you recognize or have seen run, or,
I,
or or there's a big Asmussen horse that has been, um, just a big name type thing, but yeah,
I also
I'm
think
excited to kind of jump back into it. Go ahead, Mark.
No, I was just gonna say. I also think this year's Breeders' Cup. Normally, there's a couple of those world's fastest hype horses and the super hype horses that going into the Breeders' Cup, and I think it's a little less of that this year. I think there's clearly. I think when you look at the Breeders' Cup Juvie, there's definitely a lot of horses that are interesting coming out of that race, but there's less steam horses. It feels like this year who you're hearing a ton of noise about nonstop. So it feels a little more wide open. Obviously, that makes it a better betting product, but I don't think it's been like last year. I remember everybody was so anxiously anticipating the return of fierceness. You get those sort of like there's that real hype horse that everybody's waiting to see. A little less of that this year, which is I think actually a good thing.
Yeah, Big Chief Ross is saying he thinks horse racing is really going down fast. That he still loves it. It just feels different. And I don't know. Like I talked. I don't want to get like too like negative too into the weeds, but we talked a little bit about it on drinking champagne and just about there's a number of things, right? You get the stuff that like Gulfstream is happening at Gulfstream. You get the stuff with the cause, right? And I've talked about it, I talked about it at length, like guys that the two of us know that have put hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars a handle through, and they're just like, why are we doing this still? And they're constantly there's always constant complaints, right? There's not enough young people, right? And not that we're necessarily all that young, but I mean, at least Caleb and I are under 40, right? Mark, you're 40 or just north of it. Like,
Just,
we're at the peak money making years. We are the type of people that you probably want going to the track, and I think that easily all of us have Mark. I don't know about you, or I know you have for sure, but I'm just saying, like, I've crossed six figures a couple of years, and I don't think I did last year. Caleb, I know you had real life stuff, so it's a little bit different for you, but um, I a lot of these six figure plus handle guys just aren't into it as much anymore. But we don't want to get too negative. Obviously, we got tons of races to cover. We got Turfway Park running, so if you want to hear some more thoughts on that, like I said, drinking champagne, Andrew Champagne and I, we talked at length a little bit about that kind of stuff. But why don't we start with this fairgrounds race here, race 8. We got the Marie Krantz Memorial and mile and 16th here on the turf, and your morning line favorite in this race, I do believe, is going to be, is it Cupid's Crush at 4-1? Yeah, you got a pretty it's a pretty flat race here. You got Cupid's Crush 4-1. You got Stir Crazy and Nanda Dea at 5-1, and you got Way to Be Marie at 6-1, and then you got double digits on everyone else. That's the nice thing about having nice big fields is you get these you kind of get these flat kind of flatter races. Um, I didn't use the one Cupid's Crush. I honestly, my top pick in this race is probably the 10, Join the Dance. Um, Luis Saez riding for Dallas Stewart. Dallas Stewart off to a great start here at this meet, right? He's winning at 25%. And the horse just missed last time out, got beat by Stir Crazy, who's another horse who I am going to use. And I think did kind of get it all his own way, or all her own way on the front end last time, right? Went 24 and 2, 49 and 3, going a mile 16th on the turf. That's it's not Naira slow, but I would say it's probably on the slower end for what you want to see in the stakes stakes type race on the turf going a mile 16th. And I don't know. I kind of look around on this one, and I don't. Maybe I'm having a hard time seeing how maybe she doesn't get the same trip. How Louis Size doesn't kind of get out on the front end and get the horse kind of comfortable. And I think 10-1, you're getting a pretty good price here on a horse that looks to probably be the speed of the speed. I mean, I know the 11, Trying My Heart Out, is listed as an E6, but hasn't shown the propensity to get to the lead whatsoever. And I just love seeing Luis Saez on a speed horse, get out there, get out in front. So I thought Join the Dance made a ton of sense here. Obviously, I also used the horse that beat her last time out in the 3 Stir Crazy. And that's mostly because, seeing a horse that is kind of a presser type or a closer, and one that ends up kind of closing into a slow pace, I always think is a positive. Jose Ortiz was aggressive with the horse and didn't saw that there was a slow pace and kind of kept the horse forward enough. So now you see the jock switch to Joel Rosario, and maybe maybe you're a little less confident you're going to get the same type of ride as Joel. Will feel much more comfortable maybe letting the pace get out in front of him. But I thought the last race was good. Kind of coming right back here, running the same condition against a lot of the same horses. So I had to use the 3 Stir Crazy here as well. And then I'm also using the 13 Nanda Dea, which is the horse that Jose Ortiz is leaving Stir Crazy for. Ran a nice race in the Keeneland Fall Meet, winning at 3-1. Once again, beating a couple horses in this field. And honestly, I mean, Jose is just putting on an absolute clinic to start this fairgrounds meet. I mean, he's winning at 30% out of 150 mounts. So he's basically got his pick. And I see him jump on this horse, a horse that came in that first time in North America, won pretty convincingly by 2.25 lengths at Keeneland. So yeah, I think Nanda Dea is in here with a huge shot. I wouldn't be surprised if maybe this even ends up going off as your favorite in this race. Obviously I'm looking at Brisnet, so and you guys use a couple different other products, so hey, maybe something else jumps out the page at you guys. But those are the 3 horses I'm using here. Mark, where did you kind of land?
Yeah, I think y- I, I think your pace complexion, how you sort of see it with Join the Dance, kind of getting out and getting comfortable on the front end. I don't know if I necessarily agree with you there. I don't think there's a lot of pace in this race, and I also don't think there's a lot of real need to lead types. And I just really kind of worry with Join the Dance is that the kind of horse that's going to be floated a little wide coming out of the 10 hole, with some there are some speeds. I don't want to say need the lead speeds, but somebody like Cupid's Crush to the inside, has enough speed to keep him honest, and Cupid's Crush tends to kind of make the lead, in these types of races, first call almost all the time. And I also think somebody like the 6 Way to Be Marie, both have some speed. And so I just, I think they're going to keep Join the Dance at least honest on the front end. Don't dislike the horse, but I just sort of went other places. I think that the 3 logicals, at least for me, were Cupid's Crush, Stir Crazy, and Way to Be Marie. But the more I looked at this race, I just didn't want to kind of eat a short price in here. I wanted to go and try to find some outsiders and find some value in this race. So my top 2 choices that I was most interested in were two prices. First off is the 4 Strikingly Spun for Joe Sharp. When you see Joe Sharp, his barn is notoriously streaky. He gets hot and he gets really hot, and then he'll cool off for 6 months and just completely disappear. So I thought Strikingly Spun. Frankie Dettori picks the mount up. He was on the horse at Kentucky Downs, and Joe Sharp was won at some sort of absurd percentage. He was like 35 or 40% at Kentucky Downs, and Frankie was getting all those mounts. So I think this is a horse that's really interesting, stretching back out a little bit, probably to what is her better distance, and her figures kind of say that she's the kind of she's not that much slower than some of the other horses that we've sort of already talked about in here. And the other horse that I was really interested in is the 8 Champagne Rosé in the Brazilian. First time in the United States for Ken McPeak. Ken McPeak barn has been pretty solid. He's really good with new stock, and this is a horse in a field where some of these horses definitely don't like to win. This is a horse that we know does. 4 or 5 lifetime, all 4 of those coming on turf. Again, how suspect was the company that this horse was keeping in Brazil? I don't really know that, but I think it's interesting to see Hernandez jump up on this horse. He had a win, I think, last out on one of the other horses in the race, and I don't remember which one it was now that I'm kind of looking through it. But I think it's interesting to see him hop up on this horse, and a horse that seems to be in pretty darn good form, and is one that likes to win. So, I thought Champagne Rosé at 20 to 1 was a pretty interesting. I guess it's technically Champagne Rose, isn't it? That doesn't have the little tick on the top, but I thought that Champagne Rose was interesting in here as well.
We always love to hear you pronounce horse names, Mark. So
This is true. I just kind of make it up as I go along, So,
Caleb?
Yeah, I mean, kind of evidenced by the fact that we're all over the place in this race. I thought this was the hardest race in the sequence, for me anyway. I don't have any strong knocks against some of the short-priced horses. Cupid's Crush is fine in here. I mean, her last race was visually crazy how fast she was flying late, but she generally does better when she's involved in the early pace. I mean, that sprint was probably the plan was not to be 12th, by 8 lengths coming out of the gate. And I didn't really think that much of her, and she kind of surprised me at Keeneland with a pretty nice win there. So, I mean, I think she deserves respect, but she's also not a horse I'm excited to bet at 4 to 1 in what I feel is like a very flat race. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, to kind of touch on some of the others you picked, I mean, Join the Dance, I won't beat you up over a 10 to 1. Horse probably just doesn't win enough for me and has had enough trips and chances that I think she'll get a similar one today. Very likely hits the board, but I just don't know that, she's going to be the one that hits the wire first necessarily. I kind of agreed with Mark a little bit about, or both of you guys, I guess, about Stir Crazy. They're very likely winner here. Although it does bug me a little bit that Jose and Saez both kind of get off here, and instead you get, everyone's favorite jockey Rosario, who will have her no closer than 9th in this field. So with all that being said, I mean, I was kind of hesitant to take a super short price on anyone. So I didn't know what to do with some of the, like the South American horses, like the 12 and 13, for example. I like them both. I don't love either. I don't know really what to think of some of them, truthfully. So they'll probably all make my ticket. This is a race where I will be pretty spread out. And the same thing with Champagne Rose as well. So on my top pick, I actually landed on a horse that I think is probably a bit of a bad morning line here, but the number 7, Austere. I don't think you'll get 10 to 1 on her in this race. I think you'll probably get something closer to like 5 to 1, maybe 6 to 1. But this is a filly that was really, really good as a 2-year-old, won at First Asking and then won a pretty nice stakes race at Kentucky Downs in her second career start. They tried her in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies, and she didn't run poorly. I mean, she ran 5th by 2 lengths, losing to, Porta Fortuna, who's been a world beater over there in Europe. And then She Feels Pretty, who's had a couple just smashing victories as a 3-year-old. They kind of tried her again a couple times in some stakes races in the Florida Oaks and the Appalachian, and it just seems like she was maybe starting to go backwards. Something went wrong. She disappears for the rest of her 3-year-old season, basically. Comes back in November, skips the Breeders' Cup, skips all the stakes races, comes back in a pretty soft prep race, admittedly, where she was bet down to 6 to 5 favoritism, but she won like a 6 to 5 shot should. She took back, made one big run and just kind of blew by the field late and won pretty handily there. She's one that, if you ignore her graded stakes, I mean, she's essentially undefeated. I mean, she's never lost against non-graded stakes company. And even in those graded stakes, I mean, she's always been in the picture towards the end. I just think she's a little better, a little classier, maybe a little more upside than some of these others who, a horse like, Cupid's Crush, who is 5 and has maybe some dubious form at Canterbury, or a horse like Stir Crazy, who's in 7-year-old mare now with some jockey changes. And I just kind of felt like Austere is maybe the horse has every chance second off the layoff with a win over this course and at this distance to just take that next step forward and, be the best horse in what is not the strongest rendition of this race. But I landed on Austere as a top pick. I will be spreading this race. Way to be Marie, another one. I think it's a tough race. I will be spread. I think it's easy to get skinny later, but Austere is my top pick.
Caleb, I'm just curious. As somebody from West Virginia, are you going to get canceled for calling it the Appalachian and not the Appalachian?
I might. You never know.
Mountaineers represent. Uh, real quick before we move on to the next race, I see we're about 4 minutes to post here at Turfway. Race 8. Now, Mark, I know you and I were talking a little beforehand because we both ran back a pick 4. You're still alive in the pick 4. I am dead because I did not want to go ahead and bet the even money favorite. But where did you land here in race 8 here at Turfway?
Yeah, I was 6, 7, and 8 in this race. I have 6 and 8 as A's, and the 7 as a B. So nothing super creative. I predominantly cap this with optics. I tend to think optics works very well for me, at least at Turfway. So
I actually really like the 9 in this race. I'm on the 8 and the 9 in here.
Sophie's
I
been
did.
riding real well.
I'm doing what I always tell myself, like at the beginning of the year I'm not going to do, which is run back pick 4 and then the run back pick 3, right? I feel like you get one run back a night, and I fired back to run back pick 3, and I used the 8 and the 9 here. I actually, this 9 is kind of sitting at a much higher price than I thought, so I'm actually going to win bet this 9 as well, because I feel like this is too good of a price. So I'm gonna win bet this 9. Yeah, I honestly like. I think Sophie has been riding pretty well. She knows when to get aggressive when the track is playing to speed. So I definitely think, at least today, it looks like speed is pretty good. I mean, we've seen closers get there. We've seen off the pace horses win, but we've also seen when that happens, the cheap speed at 30 or 40 to 1 has still hung on for second, and no one else has made up ground. So it's like you really have to be the best horse, I think, to win coming off the pace. And honestly, I really I don't hate this horse's last effort. Got there, got on the lead, and did ended up kind of folding it up there, but was ridden aggressively, right? Was up in class. So you're seeing this horse drop down in class, and just kind of come right back with Sophie Doyle once again. And yeah, I don't know. I think having one run over the synthetic as well is always a plus for me. So I like to see. I think the 9 here is in a big shot. 8, I'm right there with you. That's the other horse I'm using here. I'm using the 8 and the 9. Irving Moncada has been riding really, really well. The bug has been doing great. Doug O'Neill, he's only sent a few horses so far over to Turfway. He's 1 for 8. But it's the big class drop once again. The maiden, open maiden coming down to maiden claiming. And Doug O'Neill is only 24% when he's making that drop. So yeah, I thought the 8 and 9, both of them, I expect to see them both forwardly placed, and yeah, see if one of them holds on. Caleb, I know you didn't get much of a chance to look at much Turfway. Anything pop out at you in this race?
Yeah, I mean, I just glanced through it kind of quickly. I mean, just right before we hopped on. I mean, it depends on the track's playing. I mean, Turfway is always a very, in my opinion, bias-prone track, one way or the other. I haven't watched a single race today. I mean, if speed is playing pretty strong, I do think you're getting a really good price on your 9 here, Josh. I think this horse, on the cutback, definitely fits here, and Sophie Doyle rides, this current meet notwithstanding. I mean, she's a good rider here. Irving Moncada has also been probably the best rider here. He's still getting the weight break. So, I mean, I think the 8 and 9 makes sense. I do think if you can close, I mean, I looked at the 5 and 7 a little bit. The 5 has, like, I only briefly looked at this through Brisnet, so I don't know how it looks on anything else, but it's pretty difficult to close going 6.5 when they go 47 and 3 at Keeneland. So he kind of ran okay to go mid pack there, and first and third place horse came back to win that race. I thought that was a pretty decent effort at Keeneland for a horse that should be mid pack in this field. Kind of the same trip with the 7 Skylar, I thought, who's getting a jock upgrade to Luan Machado, another one of the top riders on the circuit here, who was third last time out, now gets a rider upgrade and might be worth a bet a little bit. So I thought the 5 and 7 maybe worth a look. I do respect the 8 and 9 as well. I guess I wouldn't use the 6 in this race. I can't remember if Mark said he had or not, or had him or not. But to me, that's the kind of horse that I'd probably let beat me at a short price.
So, Mark, congratulations on getting Sweet Talking Bourbon into the winner circle here. You should be pretty safe. So, um, but it looks like they're loading into the gate here at Turfway. See how long they. Oh, they're actually getting them in pretty fast. As that gets loaded in here, we'll get the PPs up for race 9 here. But good luck if you guys are betting anything here. And let's hope no jockeys fall off. I'm not speaking from experience whatsoever. 12 really got kind of hustled and still was just way too wide. It looks like the 8's going to get the lead, 8 and 9.
I thought the price on the 9 would come down after they opened the gates, but it held pretty steady. 6-1 is not too bad.
Yeah, Sophie's got a bit of a hold on the horse, and so it looks like she's trying not to burn it up too much early, but sitting there in the tracking trip. But yeah, now she's getting pressured from the outside by this 11, so I think she's gonna have to go. Yeah, they're four wide here, so I mean, maybe the jocks room is
Yeah, they may be
figured it
catching
out.
on.
Yeah,
6 and 7 are both setting a perfect trip if you can make up ground.
the 6 is gonna get boxed in unless no, they're just gonna
Oh,
let
the
it
C's
let
just
through.
parted.
Yeah, the 9's empty, and looks like the 6 is gone unless this 1 or 11
Thanks.
make up
Hey,
any
thanks,
ground.
guys.
Yeah,
Love
of
you
course.
guys. You're the best.
Just
Thank
just
you.
the absolute Mark special. Just a suspect ass looking horse that goes up at 9-5.
Never saw a
wins.
9 to 5 he didn't like.
Yeah, my goodness. All right. Well, that's probably it for me for Turfway tonight because I'm just getting.
But
I'm just getting
Josh,
mauled.
you know when you get knocked out of the pick 3, what you can play.
There
next,
is a
right?
double.
There is a double.
There is a double. Well, maybe I'll get talked into it. I mean, I've definitely been prone to that. Silver Bullet Day here, race 9 at Fairgrounds. All right, we got a field of 8 here. Your morning line favorite is going to be at 3-1. Simply Joking. You got 7-2 on Golden Gamble, 4-1 on Chasin, and then you just kind of got middle prices everywhere. This is kind of a flat race once again. I mean, the longest price in here is 10-1, and I took 2 horses in this race. I think I used them both as A's. Mark, I'll let you go first here though. Where did you land?
Yeah, I have a lone A in here, and it looks like it's a horse that you didn't even use, so that's cool. So no, this was one of those races where so many of these horses are lightly raised. You really don't know what they are. And I looked at the morning lines, and it just seems like a Brad Cox first out winner is going to get bet off the board. And I would imagine Chasten in here will take all the money. So I kind of wanted to zig when others are zagging, and I'm going to go to the 3, Simply Joking, for a barn that is absolutely phenomenally hot, horse that's got a wind going across the surface. Seems to be kind of lone speedish. I mean, the 7 probably presses and goes well as well, but I'm assuming the 3's got enough speed to get pretty comfortable in the front end, and a horse that they thought enough of to run in an overnight stakes first time out. So and it showed up and kind of proved the deal. Even though it looks like he got a little jostled getting out of the gate, probably didn't have the best trip, and still got it done. So I think we always talk about these 2-year-olds, and I realized his first race he was barely a 2-year-old, or she was barely a 2-year-old. But horses that can pass other horses at first ask, as a 2-year-old. were always impressive. So I thought Simply Joking in here was just kind of the class of the field, and is going to end up being a lone A for me. And I didn't have anything super creative for other horses. Just felt like, in a sequence that felt like it could be a little chalky. I didn't want to get crazy spready in this race, so I'll leave Simply Joking as my lone A.
Caleb.
Yeah, I didn't know what to do with Simply Joking. I certainly couldn't loan A the horse. I don't think. It just too much unknown. I mean, this horse is not bred to go 2 turns. That is pretty much a pure sprint pedigree. It's a Pennsylvania bred. Has to now go, first time or second time out. Breaking his maiden in the first start, albeit not in the maiden race. As a first time starter, the horse still went off at less than 3-1 in a 6-horse field. I do kind of question. Yes, it was a stakes race, but I'm not really sure what was in that field. Maybe, given the fact that a first timer took that kind of money. So yeah, I don't know what to do with Simply Joking. I mean, the figure came back fast, admittedly, but it should be forwardly placed in a race without an abundance of speed. So it's the kind of horse that I hope floats up, and I don't mind using it defensively at like 4-1 or 9-2. But if the horse would go down to like 2-1, it'd be a much tougher argument for me to include that kind of a horse. For me, though, there was a horse in here that I did like quite a bit. Not quite a bit, but that I have on all my tickets. And that's actually the horse right to her outside, the number 4 Drexel Hill. This horse had a bit of a trip in that untappable where she was a little bit green, it appeared. As soon as she broke, I mean, she shied out from the horse to her immediate inside. And then she got kind of floated wide into that first turn. It's not a super long run into that turn there. Was able to kind of settle in the back of the pack. And, right when she was trying to get some run, she just stayed inside and never had anywhere to go. Torres never tried to get her outside. He kept her on the fence, just hoping for a hole that just never showed up. He actually quit riding and kind of gave up. And on her own, she actually passed about 2 or 3 horses and then galloped out, ahead of the rest of the field. So I thought that was actually a pretty impressive run for doing it on her own. I mean, clearly she had a lot of energy left. It's encouraging that, Walt Beckman does have Simply Joking in here. And he also elects to, run Drexel Hill in this spot as well. So I think that Drexel Hill, is in here with more of a shot than she'll get credit for. I don't care that Torres gets off. I probably prefer Ben Curtis, truthfully, especially at the fairgrounds where he's been one of the top riders the past couple of years. So yeah, I thought Drexel Hill is a horse that is coming off a bad trip, is already proven at this distance, and could get a little bit overlooked in favor of the flashy Brad Cox or Ken McPeak horses.
Is the other Beckman an angle?
I guess we'll find out.
Yeah, I guess I'll be the lone dissenter, and I am going to take the flashy Brad Cox, chasing here, yeah, I was a little surprised to see this kind of be like 3rd, 4th choice in this field. I honestly think, right, it could flip any number of ways, but what I like to see here with chasing is went and broke its maiden, being 8 lengths off at first call, going 7 furlongs at Churchill Downs. It's not exactly easy to do. And with these lightly raced horses, I always like to see a horse that's passed other horses. Now, granted, it's not always easy to do at fairgrounds, to pass other horses. So I'm a little bit concerned. And I see Nick Sievers here saying he's a big fan of Flashy Cox. So yeah, I think Chasen's kind of got that look on paper, right? Went ahead, passed 7 horses first time out, won pretty comfortably by a length and a half, on not necessarily closer favoring track. So yeah, I like the 1. But I'm kind of going back to the speed angle here with the 7. She's a Swede. Kenny McPeak trains this horse. Luis Saez rides, and I actually don't necessarily hate horses like this, where it takes them a couple of tries to kind of break their maiden. It seemed like Kenny maybe brought this horse along, a little slower. I mean, obviously it wasn't bet at all in its first 2 races. going 6 furlongs as a 2-year-old at Churchill, and then going long on a turf for some reason, as only Kenny McPeak can do apparently. But obviously, you look at the breeding, and you could see why they tried this horse on the turf with American Pharoah on top. But came back here off the turf and went wire to wire and won won a race here, going this a little bit longer than this trip. So you're getting a bit of a cutback here. So I kind of looked through the rest of this field, and I really didn't see much speed. So I don't know. I thought maybe there's a chance that She's a Swede kind of gets out there and just goes, and maybe can go wire to wire. Now, granted, we have sprinters stretching out, so I think your horse, the 3, Simply Joking, we might see speed there too. But I don't know. I just have a hard time taking a short price on that horse. That it doesn't look to be bred to really go 2 turns, and is stretching out for the first time. When I think you got a horse that is shown speed, is going to be aggressively ridden by Luis Saez, and has shown that can go the 2 turns. So of the speed, I guess the quote unquote speed horse, I like the 7 the most, and I'm gonna use the Flashy Cock, the 1 here, Chasen. So
I went back and forth on your 7, Josh, for quite a while, because I do see the pace angle for sure. There's not much speed in here, but everything about that horse just makes me think she's just not very good.
Mm-hmm.
She barely breaks her maiden in an off the turf 5-horse field. It was one of the slowest horses in this race, based off of even her best effort. So yeah, I tried so hard, but I don't know that I can get there.
You know what's funny?
Okay.
You know what this horse, like, what this horse screams to me is horse that like is gonna run in this race, is gonna run okay, is gonna get like 4th or something. They're gonna try it in the Risen Star, is not gonna run a step, and then it's gonna show up like running like some weird they're gonna send it to like Gulfstream running like 7.5 on the turf or something, and wins, right? Like
Probably.
just some like weird we don't know what to do with this horse. But I don't know. Like I said, I took a look at this race, and I had a hard time seeing where the speed was going to come from. Honestly, the other horse I kind of did look at was the 6, Goal's Delight, as I thought that maybe like this is a horse that maybe might show a little bit of sneaky speed. Not necessarily a fast speed in that maiden breaker. They went 24 and 3, 48 and 4, but the horse was basically right on the pace. Was sitting 4th, but was less than 2 lengths off of it the entire time. So, but I don't know. I think you once again you kind of get into the did go and won by open lengths in that maiden, but once again you're looking at a Practical Joke and Indian Charlie. You're not necessarily thinking, hey, like this is definitely a 2-turn horse, but it has done it before at least. So I thought the 6 was a little bit interesting, but I didn't put it on a ticket, so I'm gonna kind of stick with the 7 and the 1.
I had the 6 marked down as a B. I think I really like a horse that, debut, stalks the pace, and then kind of draws away to win impressively. I thought that was a really solid performance. And you get, without the, I expected there'd be a little more love on between one of you two for that 6. So maybe that price does hold. And I think if you can get around that morning line, that's a really fair price on a horse that I think, is an interesting one.
I do like the 6, probably my second choice.
Okay.
But
It'd
yeah,
be second choice for me as well. Yeah.
Yeah, for me, and this is interesting. I know some people care more than others about figures or products, but the number 1, Chasen, who is a half sibling to Idiomatic and in all likelihood going to be your favorite, the Juddmonte Homebred, the slowest horse in the race according to Timeform, and not even like marginally the slowest. A good 10 to 15 points slower than all of the contenders. Which is admittedly closers don't always get love on Timeform, and I do think that figure could be a few points faster looking at the runbacks, but there's no real argument that she's the fastest horse in the race or even among them. So you're projecting a lot of improvement on a horse that's going to be a short price, I think. So she's one that probably won't. I mean, she could certainly win. I mean, she's got a royal pedigree. It's Juddmonte, it's Cox, it's Fairgrounds. She can win. But she's the perfect kind of horse that I will always bet against.
But what kind of
Yeah, and I
Cox is
thought
it?
Flashy and hot.
See, I sort of love the six for the opposite side of that take, which is the fact of you're getting the second fastest on time form, at least the second fastest horse in the field, and only by 2 points, the second fastest. Who it probably gets a little bit ignored. So your price, I think you're going to get value there on a horse that has every right to improve just as much as the one does, and yeah. So there's a lot of ways you can go in here.
Cool. Let's keep on going here. We got race 10, the Colonel Bradley. We're going to be going a mile and 16th on the turf here. Yeah, we got another big field here. Looks like we got 14. None of them, and they're all drawn in. So your morning line favorite is going to be Gigante at 7-2. Then you get Northern Invader and Wadsworth at 5-1. What Say Thee at 6-1. I'd rather be blessed than Higgins Boat at 8-1, and then you get double digits on everybody else. Caleb, where did you land here?
Yeah, this is another really good race, I thought. It's a big field. It feels pretty evenly matched. So I haven't watched, really any fairgrounds this year, so I don't know how the turf's been playing. I did pull up the HRN track trends, and it really seems to suggest that the turf routes have been playing to closers, specifically inside drawn closers. So that's one reason that I'm very kind of hesitant to go to a horse like Northern Invader, who otherwise I would think quite highly of, has been keeping excellent company lately with Carl Spackler and Ottoman Fleet, among others. But I just wonder if he's good enough to come off the layoff and to wire this field against the track profile. And I'm just not sure. So I tried to prioritize some of the more off the pace mid-pack runners, and preferably those who weren't going to be in the 12, 13, kind of 14 posts. I do think Gigante is your most likely winner. I do think that for certain. He likes fairgrounds. He's got 2 wins in a second from 4 starts here. He just likes to win, for that matter. He's got 7 wins from 18 starts. He gets the distance. I mean, he's kind of won all over the place. I mean, Churchill, Fairgrounds, Colonial, but it does sort of seem like Fairgrounds is where he's had a lot of his success. He beat Northern Invader twice last year when they did square off, including here at the Fairgrounds. Just came off a win here last time out. So I do think Gigante is your most likely winner. But one other horse that I am fairly high on is the number 9, What Say Thee. And this is another horse who I think just kind of fits the track profile a bit in terms of being mid-pack or a little further back. And one thing I know about Rosario is he's going to, find a way to get to that fence, and he's not probably going to leave it, whether he should or not. So I think he's going to get to the inside here and save enough ground that the 9 post probably won't be too damaging. If you look back through his past performances, I mean, he's really only has one bad race. That was at Ellis Park, and that was going 1.25 miles, which is probably too far, and it was without Lasix. I mean, he's back on Lasix today. He gets back down to a more standard turf distance, middle distance here on turf. And beyond that, I mean, he's been extremely consistent. I mean, essentially winning 4 of his last 5, with the only loss coming at Kentucky Downs, which we know some horses just don't really handle. So yeah, I think What Say Thee sits a really nice kind of mid-pack or just off trip and gets first run on some of the deeper closers when the front runners start to get tired. He's shown his ability to overcome slow paces before, although I do think he'll get a pretty fast pace in here to run after. So I like What Say Thee and Gigante as my top 2.
Mark?
I'll keep it pretty short, sweet, and to the point. I think Gigante is a match, or however you're saying it, Gigante is a massive standout in this race. There was a lot of jockeys sort of jumping around, jockeys who had winners on multiple horses last out. Nice to see Jose Ortiz stick with this one, who does very much love the fairgrounds, or at least seem to love the fairgrounds. And I think this is a really, really nice spot for him. I think that 72 morning line is kind of a pipe dream. It's probably going to be cut in half. But I think, at least for me, he's kind of a lone A type in this, in this race. And I will say there's one other horse I was a little interested in on sort of that angle that Caleb mentioned, which is this idea of inside drawn closers who've done well. I thought the two Grace Fable was a little interesting. A horse who, does have a few wins and, a little bit of recency, and should be your horse if there's enough pace in here to keep it fair. Is going to be your one that's going to be kind of flying home late. Should have the some of the best late pace figures. So some of the also Grace Fable has some races that really are not that much slower than some of the best in this field, kind of in that 120ish time form figures where Gigante's best is more like a 125. So I thought Grace Fable of the closers was the one I was most interested in.
Yeah, I mean, Caleb basically touched on all the horses that I was interested in. Yeah, I think the one is up against it a little bit on the track profile based on the stats, but I mean, it's hard to bet against Luis Saez on the rail on the speed horse in this race when it just didn't seem once again like there was really a ton of speed in here. Um, I mean, maybe some of the outside drawn horses they could go, but I don't know. I think Northern Invader has definitely, run some pretty strong races. Obviously, he's got some back class there and some listed stakes wins. So yeah, I don't know. I'm going to use Northern Invader. We'll see what kind of price we get. I do think that Gigante or Gigante or whatever the heck, however they're going to call it, but we'll use the Spanish pronunciation, Gigante. That horse to beat in here. Obviously, won kind of the prep for this race, beat a couple of horses that are in this field here, and Jose Ortiz stays aboard. Is going to sit a pretty nice tracking trip, I think, not drawn too far outside. Steve Asmussen and Jose Ortiz are only winning at nearly 40% this meet. So, yeah, a lot to like here. We don't really need to belabor that point. And then, yeah, the only B I have is the 9 horse, What Say Thee, which is a horse that Caleb has already talked about. And I'm just like I said, I'm looking for maybe a couple horses that have closed into hot paces. If this does for some reason get kind of nuclear, and What Say Thee, if you look at the last 2 wins, Brisnet has both those kind of coded as fast paces there with these plus designations, and both those races, he ended up winning. So I think if this does get really really fast up front, there is a possibility that maybe What Say Thee just is the best of the closers and is able to kind of close in on a really really hot pace. So those are the only 3 horses I'm using. I I did have a question about this 11 Wadsworth, right? It's Brad Cox, Flo Giroux, Brad Cox. We've talked about how cold he was or I was talking with Andrew about how cold he is currently at Oaklawn. He's like 0 for 21 or something. But he's 10 for 33 at Fairgrounds, right? I mean, he is on fire at Fairgrounds. So, he looks maybe a little bit slow on Briz figures. He doesn't really jump off the page to me. But I don't know. Did either of you guys give this one a look?
Yeah, I'm glad you brought him up because that's the one horse I don't know what to do with. I mean, he has some races that are fast enough to win, but you kind of have to go back a little ways to find some of them. He has been off for quite a while. Yeah, I don't know. He's tough for me. At 5-1, I could use him, but if he goes much shorter than that, I don't think he'd be a great bet. Mark, what'd you think?
Exactly the same as you did. I thought it's been a while. Seems like a horse that I don't want to say his form is tailing off, but it's sort of been a while since he's really brought his best stuff. Got some long layoff lines in there. Yeah, it's Brad Cox and Flo. Of course they can win. But I thought if you were looking for a price with a really similar type of horse, the horse immediately is inside City Man at we're gonna be probably 3 times the price is more interesting. Another horse that hasn't won in a while, and but has some back form, which says he could be a player in here. I mean, I guess this is one of those races where if you want to go and get a little creative, you can go a lot of different directions. I just this wasn't the spot I wanted to spread. I think to me a City Man or a Wadsworth are both the same type of horses where could they jump up and win it if they get a good trip and they find some form that they haven't found in a while? Yeah, totally they could. But I don't really want to pay to, find out, right?
It just doesn't seem like Wadsworth is the same horse as he was before that long layoff.
Agreed.
I mean, like, on Brisnet, the figures look the same, right? But you're expecting from 3 to 4 to see a step forward for a turf horse, and it just doesn't look like he did. And you see, like, he finished second in an optional claimer. Okay, sure, maybe off the layoff you give him that one, right? But then finishes fourth. To I don't even recognize horses like Dresden Row and Hush of a Storm. Like those don't ring a bell to me. But if you go back 5 races when he was a 3-year-old, oh, he just beat Mostache and Desert Duke, who are both stakes quality horses. So it's just kind of like, I don't know. Maybe this is just a horse that something was up, something went wrong, had that long layoff, and just never took that step forward. But it was just kind of intriguing because you do go look back at some of those older races, and you're like, well, those races do fit, and there is some back class there, but it just doesn't seem the 2 starts since the layoff, the long layoff, have really inspired a ton of confidence in it. And yeah, we don't know what price we're going to get, and this is right in the middle of the sequence. So, well, Mark, we got about 2 minutes here at Turfway, and we're race 9, and I did exactly what I said I wasn't going to do, and I ran back to pick 2
Okay,
after
what do you
getting
got, though?
bounced. Well, I'm not using all. I'm not going to play a 3x4 double, because that's just nonsense. That's some boomer stuff right there. So I'm gonna take my top pick, which is the 2 English Charm. I singled English Charm here. I have $20 to win on English Charm, and I'm doubling into the next race. I had 4 horses in the next race. I had the 4, 7, 12, and 14. It looks like the 7 is probably going to be very, very short next race. So I just tossed. I did the Caleb. I'm like, whatever, toss them. And so I'm 2 into the 4, 12, 14 in the next race.
Why couldn't you have tossed one of the prices you liked in the next race so that can win?
Why? But you got the 7 covered too, I'm sure.
I do, but I would much rather a pricier horse than the 7 if the 7's going to be short. No, I spread a little in this race. I'm 2, 5, 10 as my A's and 3 and 12 as my B's. This is what I was trying to find a price, sort of like the first and third legs. I hoped I could find some prices. So your 2 would be absolutely wonderful in here. That'd be great.
I mean, I really like the 2. The 2's got 4 wins and 7 starts here at Turfway Park. And I think, like I said, we've seen, at least it looks to me like, hey, you want to be aggressive, right? You don't want to be coming from the clouds unless you're absolutely the best. So I think the 2 is definitely going to be forwardly placed. Maybe not necessarily on the lead, but going to be forwardly placed. And I think he was going to get a really good trip here. So I really, really like this 2.
Yeah, and
Caleb,
I didn't know what to make it. Oh, I didn't know what to make of this 5, who was a 20-1 morning line. The board opens and gets his bet down to 4-1 or something, and is now starting to drift back up a little bit. But doubles and pick 3 payouts imply that probably should drift up a little. So, but that was another one I liked in here quite a bit.
Yeah, I mean, I like the 2 and the 5, so I have bad news for you, Mark.
Damn it! Why do you
Yeah,
do
I
this
mean,
to me?
I'm actually like disappointed with the way this race is shaken out, because I thought the 12 was fine, but like a horse that I thought, maybe you could get around a little bit. And I was probably going to try to, think about doing it with some combination of the 2, the 4, and the 5. And they are all like, I mean, the 5's not short, but off a 20-1 line, you're getting half of that at best. And then the 2 and the 4 are currently vying for favoritism with the 12. So yeah, I think that's a little tough. I did look at the 6 a little bit. I can't remember if someone mentioned him or not, but
Yeah.
Tonalist is, always one of my favorite synthetic sires. I mean, does it really well. on synthetic and does really well going long. So kind of getting two pluses there and then one minus because of Vicky Oliver. So still net positive. And you get Corrales up. So I thought maybe a little interesting there. But yeah, I mean, there's no easy races at Turfway, and this is no exception. So yeah, I mean, I thought 2, 4, 5, and 6 all looked good.
Yeah, it looks like Matt
I
sees
say
on
Matt,
the
I
three
have
here.
zero issues with that 3 win, and that'd be wonderful.
3, first time out of Brad Cox's barn, firing a bullet at Keeneland, and first up for Andrew McKeever here. So yeah, we're all over the place here, but yeah, I was 2, 6, and 12, so they all kind of yeah, the 2 was definitely my top pick. The 12, like you said, Caleb, the 12 looked fine. You know, I wouldn't be surprised if that horse wins, but it looks like the price is coming down a little bit. It looks to be the favorite now. The 6 at 7-1 actually is a little surprising because I think, yeah, I thought the 6 would maybe take a little bit of money, but you know, 7-1 seems like a very square price. So of course, the 6 is going to boom me when I don't have anything through it after tossing it. But it looks like they're loading into the gate here for race 9. Mark, what do you got again here? Because you're still live.
2, 5, 10 over 3, 12. So 2, 5, 10 are my A's, 3 and 12 are my B's.
And you still got both your B's, right? You went AA.
Yeah. I went AA to start. I mean, the chalk won the first 2 legs, Josh. Of course I went AA.
Of course you went AA, yeah. Well, I don't know. Sometimes you have defensive Bs, so sometimes it's tough to tell.
This is true.
That is true. It could be AB or BA, you know.
Yeah. All right, so it looks like 2 and 6 went out to the lead here, and it looks pretty measured from the eye test. I haven't seen fractions pop up yet. 6 looks like he's 24 and 1, maybe a little fast because what are they going? They're going classic distance here. Yeah. But they kind of opened up a little bit. Looks like they're about 3 lengths, 2.5 lengths ahead of this 5 and 3rd. Yeah, Nick pointing out that these 1.25 mile races are weird at Turfway. I think 1.25 mile races are weird anywhere because we just don't run that many of them. So, which is I don't know, which is why I have like this sick kind of obsession with the marathon distance. You know, let's go mile. Hey, 1.25 miles. Why not 1.375 miles? Who the heck cares?
You just know you're a big rocketry fan.
Oh, fucking rocketry, man! I got to look up that horse that I was all over. That was just. I'm gonna start with an M. I'll tell you what, man. The 2 looks like he's cruising. Because it looks like he's already into the 6, and he's not making up any ground. The 3's kind of coming a little bit. The 7's
got
coming.
Some run. Rosario Spur is also an excellent name.
Oh God.
4 looks like he kind of blew the turn, but he's coming a little bit.
Let's see. All right, Machado, please tell me you know where the real wire is. Oh, this 4's coming now too.
Yeah, I think you're cooked.
Yeah, I think it's the 4. Damn.
4-2 or 4-9.
Yeah, I mean, I got. I know he held out for about as long as he could, but Nick said he thought Luan was holding that too. I don't know. It looked like he was doing it all on his own, but you know, you never know. Mark, did you have the 4?
I did not.
You did not. Well, there we go. We don't have to speak about Turfway ever again.
Excellent.
Well, you can have the run back exacta.
Oh, the run back exacta. Why not? Fire it in. We'll maybe we'll get to that.
It's really the get out exacta at this point.
Yeah, and you know, it's kind of funny because now we're getting to the last 2 races here at Fairgrounds in this pick 5, and I don't know, these were kind of, I don't know, not the least exciting because I think I really want to watch this 11th race, right? I really want to watch the 11th race. because it's intriguing to me. Because you see a lot of names in this race. The Louisiana Grade 3 here. You see horses like Hit Show. Um, I mean, hell, Pipeline, was a horse that I mean, obviously he's an E8, so it's a horse that I've bet on numerous times. The 5 Skinner, Track Fandom coming back. Um, so you got a couple interesting horses kind of showing back up. Um, but man, pace wise, I'll tell you what, I don't think I want anybody on the front end. I think, unfortunately, I think this sets up for what are probably going to be your first and second choices in this race. I'm taking the Mark route, I believe here. I honestly, I really think that Hit Show like has absolutely no business losing this race with the way that I think this pace should set up. I also thought Hit Show had absolutely no business losing to Clark, and we saw how that worked out. So that concerns me a little bit, because I'll tell you, man, Hit Show, when he ended up kind of taking that, started hitting up those like kind of off Derby, 4-year-old races like the Cornhusker, the Governor, the Lucas, like when he started running those, like I mean, he ran great, and then he won the Fayette, right? And he never, I mean, he just looked really good, was running really well, and then all of a sudden it's the Clark is flat, third by 4. So I don't know, I like which Hit Show are we gonna see? I think Hit Show at his best wins this pretty easily. But I don't know. B effort from Hit Show I think makes him a little vulnerable, and he's coming in here off a layoff. Although, like I said, Brad Cox has been hot here at Fairgrounds, so I have Hit Show as an A, my top pick. I'm not like in love with it. I'm not in love with it because I'm also using the 5 Skinner. Sherry DeVoe is taking over for John Sheriffs on this horse, who was a really interesting horse in coming into the Derby, and then did he get a fever or something? He was a late scratch, I think, or the week of he got scratched. 'Cause I remember, was it the Santa Anita Derby where he just like made this like huge move and looked really good. And then he didn't really end up winning until that native diver at the end of the Del Mar meet. So is coming back here, coming back in Stakes Company, but I just think that he's just he's going to get the setup here. I just think that there's a lot of pace, and I think he's going to get a nice setup here. It's just whether or not he's going to be able to make up enough ground to beat Hit Show. So I'm 1-5 here. I'm really boring. I'm taking probably the 2 top choices. I've turned into Mark. So Mark, where did you land?
I kind of spread this race, honestly. I think this is sort of like the first leg for me, where I don't think there's a lot of difference in a lot of these, and I don't know what horse really shows up that's the real deal. I mean, if Hit Show brings his A game, if he runs back to that Fayette, yeah, he should destroy this field. But if he runs back to his Clark, well, yeah, he just doesn't. I think Skinner makes a lot of sense, and honestly, I think my top pick is probably Track Phantom, just because he seems to really kind of get along well with this fairground circuit. I don't know if he's a horse that's yet taken that step forward, going 3 to 4, but I'll give him one more shot to see if he can kind of bring it. But I thought you could go a lot of different ways in here. I thought horses like a Warrior Johnny or a Pipeline made sense. And I thought you could even make a case for somebody like Cook Creek. So I think there's a lot of different ways to go in here. And of the races in the sequence, the first leg and this leg are the 2 ones that I want the most coverage in. I don't have any creative ideas about why I really love a price in here or anything else. It's just one of those, I want to have coverage in this race to horses I think can win, and I'll get skinnier other legs where I have better opinions.
Yeah, there's more horses in this race that I don't like than I do like, which I guess really isn't that uncommon for me at this point. But yeah, I mean, hit show is not for me. I don't believe the Fayette figure at all. I mean, without looking up, who ran second? I mean, you can look, but like, who is that horse? Who trains him? Who owns him? Who rode him? Do you have any idea? Because I didn't.
Is it Blizzy?
It is Bolsey, trained by Donnie von Hemmel and ridden by Frankie Dettori, apparently in that race. And then the third place was Uno Mas Bourbon, Ian Wilkes and Francisco Arietta. Like, that fig is so fake. So many horses have ran 20-point tops in that race. Keeneland, I think, has a bunch of bad figures. This one is, I think, a prime example. And I don't think it's a 20-point top for a hit show necessarily, but I think if you ignore it, then he's kind of just another horse in this race. And that's kind of how I'm treating him. I do think he'll be short. And, I do agree with Josh and his perspective of the pace. I do think it's fast. I tried hard to make an argument for Pipeline because I think he's the horse that almost has to go to the front with Saez and his run style. He's just not about to pass anybody. But I just couldn't. So I did like Skinner. He's probably my top pick in here. He's another one that isn't really blitzing fast. The barn change I do find a little bit odd. I don't know, and I'm not sure if either of you know if this was, is John Sheriff's just not able to run in Louisiana, so this is like a one-off and they'll get transferred back to John Sheriff's barn, or was this actually a private purchase? I don't know what happened here, but I just thought that's very odd. You don't typically see 5-year-old horses for John Sheriffs end up leaving barns and going somewhere else. So I thought that was very peculiar. But regardless of what's going on with the connections there, I mean, this horse has a tremendous late kick. He's been doing that in California, where it's oftentimes extremely difficult to close. And yeah, I just think Cherie DeVoe, Jose Ortiz winning at some ungodly percentage right now. He gets a hot pace in front of him here, coming off a win, third off the layoff, off the big layoff. There's just a lot to like. I like that he has a couple spins over the local surface here at Fairgrounds. So Skinner's my top pick. And the only other horse that I'm kind of looking at a little bit would be the number 6, Cook Creek. And I don't really know if I think this horse needs the lead or not. If he does, he's probably Cooked Creek because I don't think he's going to be able to, do much with Track Phantom and Pipeline in there. But if he can sit, and the one jockey that we know is going to make him at least try is going to be Rosario. And if he can just sit third, his figures that he's run are quite good. I mean, he stumbled out of the gate last time and was never really comfortable after that. Prior to that, he went too fast to win, 2 back in that Lucas Classic where he just got run down by some closers late. He was 3 lengths clear of Rattle and Roll, who came back to win the Clark next out. So I just think there's a race in this horse that's probably good enough to win. I mean, you can argue maybe he's better on a sloppy track, maybe he's better on the lead. There's plenty of arguments, but I think you get better than 9-2 on this horse, and I do think that he's one that is maybe in with a shot. But beyond that, I had a hard time making a case for almost anybody else. So I was just Skinner is an A, and then Cook Creek is more of a B.
By the way, Caleb, it was not a sale. It was not any issue with sheriffs. Apparently, the ownership group has moved about half their horses out of the California horse racing market, and they moved it to Sherry.
Oh, interesting.
Yep. Yeah, I just saw the same thing. Horse Racing Nation.
Yep, Horse Racing Nation had it. So.
Yeah, that was interesting. Because Sheriffs is, I don't know. Sheriffs is just like one of those guys. Like you don't send a horse to Sheriffs if you're like, hey, like. It's not like who's the 2-year-old guy? Is it Mendez? Luis Mendez?
Yeah, Luis Mendez. Right?
Yeah, it's like hey, you're not or Wesley Ward, right? It's not like you're sending it to him because hey, we want you to win at 2. Like you send it to John Sheriffs because you're like, hey, we want to run this horse at 4 and 5. Like so, it's interesting that a horse like this, is got moved. So, but anything else on this race you guys want to talk about? I wanted to like Track Phantom so bad. Like
I can't believe you didn't. I really.
This is like my type of horse, and Pipeline. Like those are those. But man, I just couldn't. I couldn't. Which means one of them is going to wire now.
Yeah, you almost have to use all 3 because I mean there are E8s, but there are E8s that can occasionally sit and pass a horse or 2 or duel. But then you have E8s like Track Phantom and Pipeline, who if they don't get the lead, they have almost 0 chance to pass another horse. So it's going to be interesting.
the thing is like so. I remember Track Phantoms. I think it was the Gun Runner, right? He dueled. Was it Nash that he dueled, and and basically like sent Nash to just the like absolute just. I mean, you never heard from that horse again. Basically, right? Just I mean, put him in the locker, and you're like, wow, this is a legit horse. Like he's just gonna duel these legit speed horses and win. It's almost like oh man, there was the Asmussen Sprinter that did the same thing, right? And you'd be like, oh, he's got like three other speed horses. And it's like it didn't matter, dude. He was just like, he's like, I'm going 21 and just putting these horses into into a locker and just going. And I thought that he was going to be that kind of horse, but I think he kind of got exposed as it kind of went on, and that Derby Trail takes a lot out of those horses. Obviously, you saw that. He got laid up for about 5-6 months, and hasn't won yet. In those two starts, and maybe he's Asmussen's just bringing him kind of along slowly, but he is one I'm interested to see run at 4, and we'll see what happens, but all right, let's move on to the last one here. Race 12, the Lecomte, Grade 3. Going a mile and 16th here on the main track. Derby points on the line. And we get a full field of 14 for this race. Your morning line favorite is the 13, Built. You get 9-2 on Disco Time, 6-1 on Magnitude, 8-1 on Admiral Dennis. You get double digits on everybody else. Caleb, I think it's on to you, man. Where did you land here?
Yeah, I have nothing clever in this race. I think the top two choices are your two likeliest winners. And yeah, if somebody told me they really wanted a single Built, I mean, I wouldn't really give them a hard time about that. I think Built is definitely the horse to beat. He just absolutely buried a field last time out in the Gun Runner. I mean, yeah, he wasn't going super quick up front, but he put away the other speed horse by half a dozen lengths and just drew off. There are reasons to be a little bit skeptical in here. I mean, that was a 5-horse field. This is now a 14-horse field. He's drawn the 13 post. There is some other speed in here. So there are reasons to be a little bit skeptical, which is kind of why I also like the 11 as well. But Bill, it's hard to find too much to knock where, he basically came out poor in his debut, passed a few horses in a mediocre effort. And then his last two were both just really impressive. I mean, he's proven at this track. He's proven at this distance. I think he'll be tough. Really the biggest reason not to single him is the fact that Jareth Loveberry is still riding. But if you can find a way to stomach that, I mean, I think he looks good in here. And then Disco Time, the other kind of obvious horse, undefeated Brad Cox runner, Juddmonte homebred, does, it hasn't gone 2 turns yet, but, certainly would think a mile and a 16th is in the wheelhouse. Maybe not a mile and a quarter per se come the first Saturday in May, but so far no indications that more distance is going to be bad for him. The way he's finished off some of his races, he seems to be improving, flow lands here. So besides that, I mean, everything else looks pretty good about this horse. And yeah, I mean, again, coming off of 2 pretty impressive wins where nobody got within 3 lengths of him at the wire. So I think they're both going to be really tough. And I think after those top 2, I feel like you can either make a case for everybody else or almost make a case for nobody else. And I guess I kind of, defaulted to the latter, not so much the former, but I'm curious to see where the rest of y'all went.
Mark?
Yeah, I thought Built, makes a ton of sense. All the reasons that Caleb outlined. But the one horse in here that is a bit of a price and kind of kept jumping out at me, and maybe it's the fakest fig on the face of the planet, but that's the 7-horse Calling Card from Mike Maker. This is a horse that ran 2 times on turf, once in Saratoga, once at Aqueduct. I don't understand why it's not the turfiest pedigree I've ever seen. In November, threw him on dirt at Aqueduct, and he won by 17 1/4 lengths and threw up a 109 time form fig, which is the fastest in the field. Now you can say oftentimes Aqueduct Aqueduct figs come back a little bit suspect. I get that, but for a horse that's probably going to be a bit of a price, may have bounced a little bit in that Oaklawn Park race, and this may be the real target all along. I like to see Frankie getting up. I know a lot of these big name trainers sort of want to get Frankie a good Derby mount. They want to get him, all of those, get him the opportunity of getting all the accolades. And at 12 to 1 on the morning line on a horse that, his two dirt starts haven't been that bad, and that two back figure kind of jumps off the page. I think he's an interesting horse. I have him marked down as an A, and he's the only other A with built that I'm going to be using. I have some horses that I want a little bit of underneath. I would imagine Josh is going to talk about one of them, so I'll throw it over to Josh.
I have one horse in this race, and that's the 11. Disco
The
time.
11? No
Yep.
two? No
No,
two.
nope. I'm only using
Are you
disco
feeling
time
okay?
here. I basically saw this race exactly the same way Caleb did. I thought it was the 11 and the 13, and if you used anybody else, you might as well use everybody else. And I guess I mean the 13 has improved every time out. Wayne Catalano, doesn't have the biggest barn anymore, but I mean he's firing right now. He's got 4 wins and 17 starts here. He's at 24%. I mean Jareth Loveberry won, very convincingly last time out. Um, and I don't know, maybe I'm reading too much into how many lengths he won that last race by, but generally when you see like that big of a gap between like first and second, sometimes to me my brain goes to bias, and maybe that it was just a really really biased track, and maybe that's a little bit of an inflated number. I mean it could totally be legit, don't get me wrong, but without having seen the race, without having like looked at, gone back and watched more races on that day, my mind just goes to it's just immediately skeptical of that race. And I see the 11 as, obviously he's won a couple races by 3 lengths, but I like the versatility that the 11 has shown. Right, the 11 has shown to kind of sit third off by a length and go ahead and win, and basically won wire to wire last time out, going that 1 turn mile at Churchill. Um, I really like the pedigree on the 11, right? Not this time on the top. And yeah, I mean, this looks like a legit horse. So yeah, I just prefer disco time. I mean, maybe I see a place where I use both of them, but it really, it's more like 11's my top pick. But honestly, like 11 and 13 are really the only 2 horses I could see myself using in here. Mark, you apparently think I'm probably wanting to use some crazy E8. No, it's an E4, the 2 maximum promise. It's a maximum security horse. You feeling okay?
I at least, and I realize I don't have as an E4, but on time form that is your clear pace setter. So
Mm.
I thought that was a very Josh kind of horse.
Yeah, you wouldn't think I would take the horse that Mr. Bacon won on last time out? The one
I,
horse, the
I
D. Wayne Lucas. The D. Wayne Lucas it has run 8 times already before breaking its maiden. Uh, Man, that man loves to run his horses, doesn't he?
that he does.
Well, what else you got here, Mark? What else you got underneath here?
I actually did have the two underneath, a tiny little bit of the two, just in the fact that of the cheap speeds, that's the one that is at least proven at a bit of a distance. And these speed types, after they get a couple efforts, sometimes they can go a little further. So I thought that the two, a tiny little bit of, would be interesting, but I really I kind of was like you guys in this race. I just really didn't think there's sort of the top two, and I guess I made a case for a third horse, but beyond that, I thought it was very hard to come up with anybody else without just kind of buying the whole race and hoping that the whatever first time 3-year-olds, somebody jumps up and takes a big move forward. So now I think you guys had the logical horses, and then I had the other kind of cute price play in the 7 with calling card.
Yeah, I found myself looking really hard at this 5 at like 20 to 1, and I'm like, yeah, I could probably like find. And then I like looked, and I'm like, I'm only looking at him because he's 20 to 1. Otherwise, he looks just like any other horse in this field. Which I'm like, does that mean I should use him, or that I just shouldn't use anybody else? And that's kind of why I landed on the, again, just kind of the top two, and just figuring, if I like a 20 to 1 as much as I like this 4 to 1, third choice, then, I don't like either of them, or I love the 20 to 1, and I think I just don't like any of them.
Yeah, no, and that's hard. Like, I think you get in this thing, especially this time of year, where you look at these races and you're like, oh, well, I can make a case for this one and that one, and it's, do you really want to be 6 or 8 wide in here in a pick five? I mean, I don't. I think it just, I don't know. You can make a lot of cases. These are the kind of, I find it very hard to play things like pick fives or pick fours this time of year, just in the fact that a lot of these lightly raced horses, they do take those big step ups, and it's just hard to cap. It's hard to come up with an approach to.
Anything else on this race? I did think the 4 was a little interesting. Magnitude. Obviously ran second to Built last time, but just seemed kind of outmatched there. I don't know. That was just yeah. He got put away, and like in the stretch was already 4 lengths behind. So, but it looked like he was, like I said, like it could have just been the golden rail that day. And if that's the case, I mean that's often when you see those kind of really big gaps between horses. Your Magnitude was 2 3/4 ahead of third place, and then third place was 7 lengths ahead of fourth place. So when you start to see that, my mind at least kind of starts going to bias, but it could have been legit. Magnitude, once again, this is a really nicely bred horse with Not This Time, Bernardini at the bottom. And Steve Asmussen seems to do really well in these types of races here at Fairgrounds. You're not getting the normal Steve Asmussen thing, though. You got the Bullet 2 back, and then you get another Bullet. So I don't know what that means, Caleb, because that's not the normal Asmussen angle. So maybe this horse isn't
It's
prime,
true.
but I mean, honestly, seeing Jose stay aboard here and get aboard here, like, I mean, I don't know. I'm a little interested, but this is more of a, I'm interested to see how he runs. Not I'm interested to put my money behind him. So we'll kind of see what happens with this race. It looks like we got a couple minutes here left to post. Mark, you're dead at Turfway. Are you going to do anything?
I did. I played a 7, 12, 13 exacta box.
Yeah.
Which is my three horses I would have been live too, so I just boxed them up. Figured
7, 12,
I wanted
13.
a little action. Yeah.
Okay. I went 12, 14, 4. I went 4, 12, 14. The get out exacta for Caleb, because
Love it.
I can't quit. Was there anything that you liked in this race, Caleb?
Yeah, I did play a little double last race that I just for $2 just have something to watch. So I actually have the 1 and the 10 here, who neither of you mentioned, I don't think. But
Okay.
yeah, I mean, I'll take on the Wesley Ward first timer. It doesn't really look like he's been doing so hot at Turfway so far this meet. 2 for 15, a lot of on the board finishes. But I figured I would take a shot against the Ward runner debuting for a tag. One horse, Speed and Fade against Better last time out, going longer, the cutback, adding Lasix. A lot to like there, I thought, for the 1-2 Monarch. The board clearly agrees. He is currently your 3-1 favorite. And the 10's kind of a bomb I just kind of threw in. I just figured his debut was pretty good. His second time out going long was terrible. His last time out wasn't all that bad, considering, facing much better. And Michael Pulick, I don't know him well. He's clearly not a high percentage guy, but 3 starts at Turfway and 3 second places for a guy that's 4% on the year, and adding Lasix and coming off of 2 bullet works basically. I thought the 10 might be worth a look, especially if Speed's playing pretty well. So I had 110.
So you're gonna fade the chalk, is what you're saying?
Well, I have the chalk apparently. I just didn't think the 1 would be the chalk.
No, 7's gonna be your chalk.
Well, yeah, I don't like the 7.
7's gonna take a ton of
7 will hit the board probably, but I think you can beat him.
Yeah, it looks like 7's a favorite in the double. Actually, the 12 is a favorite in the double by like 70 cents, 80 cents,
I'd much rather the 12 than the 7. If you gave me
$1.20, something like that. Yeah.
if you gave me even money on both, I'd much rather take the 12.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll put a win bet in on the 7.
And the 14's not taking any money though, huh?
No, I'm a little surprised.
Sometimes I think it's like people don't realize the AEs are in. They a lot of times they seem like they don't take money, but
that was Serling used to say that all the time. He used to think that people just don't bet the AEs because they just don't look at them. So
well, I know for me, like a lot of times I'll be Turfway, especially because you have 12 horses every race. That I don't want to cap. If you cap every card or every race with every AE, you essentially cap an extra race every time you do a card. So sometimes I'm like, I'm not going to handicap them. I'll come back and look at them if they draw in, and then I either don't realize they drew in or I get lazy. So yeah, I mean, definitely I can see that.
Yeah, it definitely seems like the A's, especially in things like verticals, you get a lot better payouts. It's almost like the inverse of, I know people always talk about, if you have stuff that gets rained off the turf, the MTOs take all the money, and if you can get a horse that was originally in the field, they'll really drift up because people are like, oh, the MTOs have to be where you want to be. So those are just little angles you chase.
it looks like they're walking to the gate, but yeah, thank you guys for hanging out with us here. Obviously, we're going to be doing this more regularly once again. Get back into the swing of things as Derby season keeps on coming. Obviously, we're going to still have Drinking Champagne every week. Usually comes out Wednesday or Thursday. It just depends when Andrew and I have time. And on Friday nights, we should be getting some You've Got to Be Shot Tinning Me. I'm guessing, and I haven't talked to Matt Carlson yet. I did see him in the chat earlier, but maybe on the weeks that they run Friday nights, instead of recording ahead of time, we might just do it live and just live stream and maybe play a couple of the races for Hong Kong at night. So probably do one live stream a month because they usually run one day a month on a Friday. So, but that should be coming out sometime tomorrow night. You get some You've Got to Be Shot Tinning Me, and obviously Drank Champagne came out earlier this week. And we'll be getting some more shorts content out there for you as the stakes racing kind of picks up. We got Pegasus coming up soon. Obviously, Middle East stuff is going to be coming up soon. More Derby prep. So, going to be a busy spring here. And, we're hopefully going to become 100 airs here in this last race at Turfway Park, where the 14 just breaks out like a rocket.
Caught a flyer.
And then there goes the 7. Holy cow, the 7's got a rocket up his ass now. And you're 1 there too, Caleb. Okay. Yeah. He's got a bit of a hold on the 1, and the 1's just still going.
One's tugging, yeah. I mean, he's a router cutting back. I mean, he only wants to go here. But this Wesley Ward horse either win by 6 or finish at the back, probably. That tends to be the way he goes.
Yeah, I'm like trying to find my 4 horse. I think that's him.
Your 4 horse one that broke like 1,000 lengths last.
Yeah, so I think my only hope is for 12 and 14 to finish.
12 looks like he's got run.
Yeah,
I mean the 7's still in hand though.
I need the 7 to go for a hot dog.
Hot dog. Oh, the 7 went for a hot dog.
He went for a hot dog.
He's gonna win anyway, but he got a hot dog. I mean, he's coming down. Holy shit!
Yeah, that's.
Damn.
I mean, it's Wesley Ward at Turfway, but he found that horse 3 times.
Is my mocking Caleb? I'm gonna get my DQ'd from a mocking Caleb.
Man, that's wild.
Suck.
Man, 5-1 was a great price on the 12.
Yeah, and the 12 was the favorite in the double.
Yeah,
and the pick 3
exact.
That's a fantastic price.
And the pick 4. I mean, I guess people just haven't gotten the memo about. I mean, he technically crossed the line first. We'll see if he stays up, but that was Yeah, he went for a hot dog and then decided, hey, I want to go back to the rail, and
Well,
unfortunately
they're
the
gonna
12
go
was
make a
there.
snowman in the infield.
Yeah, but Nick saying that we talked the 7 right into the winner's circle. Maybe we'll see. But yeah, I think that's gonna do it for us. We're not gonna wait out this objection because who knows how long this is gonna take, or if there even is gonna be an objection. Who knows? But obviously, check us out at onthewronglead.com, at wrong_lead on Twitter. Mark is at 2turns. Caleb's at CalebWVU. I am at Cherry Drank. We will see you guys next week. And yeah, good luck, everybody. Let's make some money and be safe out there, especially if you're dealing with some weather, some cold, or Mark, be careful on the slopes. It gets dangerous out there.